Hi, this is Patrick Pauls and my co-host,
Miraj Ali.
And we're both IT professionals here to talk to you about how technology can impact business. Each episode, we're going to bring you insightful interviews and the latest topics in technology and business.
Thanks for spending some time with us today on the Smartbridge podcast. Let's begin.
Today, our VP of Enterprise Systems, Victor Lang, interviews Kem Butler, Product Strategy Director at Oracle with a focus on JD Edwards. Oracle doesn't really need a whole lot of background or introduction. I mean, they're Oracle. They're a massive company that has their hands in just about everything. But if you need a little bit more information on them, you can go and look at their website and get a little bit more information on all the different initiatives and applications and technologies that they have their hands in.
Yeah, that's Oracle, www.oracle.com.
Just for those of you who don't know. In today's episode, Kem and Victor discuss Oracle's push towards the digital transformation. They have this perception of online, mobile, and connection and how that's used in the business. It represents huge opportunities for most businesses, but it can also represent a huge challenge while you upend the company and you go through this digital transformation. This is really governed by how the organization acts, what it does, the culture of the organization, and can they adapt to this new type of technology and digital transformation. These transformations it's very interesting, but they're inevitable. So it really depends on the company culture on how easy this is to kind of transition into and take advantage of. And the success and the failure of these type of transformations, is really focused on the cultural shift at the companies. So, some of these companies have been doing the same thing for 20, 30, 40 years. And to say that you have to completely change your process and your business and the mindset that you have can be a lot for them to kind of swallow and adapt. But once these companies do make the successful transformation, it gives them an agility, a versatility, and just a complete user interaction and interface that gives the company a lot of benefit from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, so you brought some good points about success versus failure. It lies with the culture, the mindset, and seeing how open-minded they are. But another key thing is awareness. And overcoming transformations that big, you have to be aware of your processes. First of all, you have to ask yourself, well, when was this implemented? Was this 10 years ago, 15 years ago? If so, are they still relevant today? So you have to go through each process that you have and figure out, go through each step, and does it make sense? Or is there a better process that Oracle has developed in Oracle JD Edwards that'll kind of make that streamlined or make it better? Obviously, that's a change, and users are resistant to change. But that's a transformation that will give you much more benefits in the long run than sticking to something that was 10 years, 15 years old. That was the answer back then, but it isn't now.
Well, to achieve your goals and your basically your projections and to change your company and actualize your vision for that company, you're going to have to change and you're going to have to adapt to it. And one of those things is you have to be aware of what you are, where you came from, before you can decide where you're going.
Yeah.
I mean, these are tools and technologies and processes, but you have to know the baseline and you have to be willing to take a good hard look at what you're doing and why you're doing it, and maybe ruffle some feathers so that you can do it better.
And you never know. You never say never. And out of these transformations, you can get some great opportunities that you might have never even thought of or seen coming down the road for you. But sometimes it even opens up new lines of business. And some of the tools that Oracle is coming out with now, which are focused on users, is a byproduct of that kind of mentality.
right? I guess what it really boils down to is you have to be open-minded about this change and this transformation.
Absolutely.
And realize you're going to a place that's better, and it just may take the journey to get there can be kind of stressful.
We're in the technology industry, right? Things will change always. They're changing at a rapid pace. You never know how things will truly work out. You might have a plan, but plans don't always work out. So having that open-mindedness, and then also recognizing through awareness that, hey, there might be an opportunity here. And then also having the follow through to make that a reality. That's another level that organizations are trying to achieve. And it is possible. And for Oracle, they're coming out with something called the UX1, which is the User Experience 1. And that's part of their tools release 9.2 update 1. And what that is basically it's bringing dashboards to users, and that's taking care of large amounts of data and giving them information that's valuable to their business, and helping them make decisions more efficiently and just better decisions overall.
Not to mention that it looks better.
Absolutely.
Every once in a while, when you look at an older technology that's been around for decades, you look at it and it's almost comical sometimes. Some of the icons and some of the interfaces that they have. I mean, again, going back to the Apple iPhone, which is something we discuss a lot when it comes to user interface, is it's very intuitive. It just works. It gives you what you want at your fingertips. 2 or 3 clicks and you can get to whatever you want. And one of the things Oracle's done is they've had the foresight to understand that's what people need, that's what people want,
that's
where it's going.
Yeah.
So they've developed this technology to allow the end user to have more control over what they see and ultimately allow them to be more productive.
Yeah, and let me tell you, I've seen UX1. It's pretty. It's beautiful. It's easy to use. It's very intuitive and it's very interactive for the users. So it's very flexible in that you can search, you can get a visual representation of data based on a criteria that you put in. But then it's also easier for administrators to maintain those pages as well.
Yeah,
so that's very intuitive, and that's a transformation that I see can have a big impact on many organizations going forward.
You have to forgive us with our, kind of shameless plug of Oracle Technologies. I mean, ultimately, we're interviewing Kem, so, everything they talk about is Oracle specific. But it is a very interesting technology, and if you haven't had a chance to look into it, take a look at it, and you'll see the benefit that it allows, even if you're not a JD Edwards customer or you don't use that software.
And before we get into the interview with Kem and Victor, she talks about key investments that Oracle's making based on their understanding of where they're going and where things can head. And so a lot of those things include mobility, UX1, and Internet of Things.
One thing that needs to be mentioned is, this is another one of those disruptive technologies.
Absolutely.
And you look at these, a lot of these technologies offer amazing functionality and productivity, and ultimately they're good for the business, but at the same time, there can be some growing pains associated with implementing, using, and training the end user to actually use these technologies
Absolutely.
effectively.
It doesn't matter how good the tool is, if you're not on top of things with your users and kind of implementing that transition, you can spend millions of dollars on a tool, but not give you the same benefit that it could if you're not on top of your culture, your people, and what true value you really get out of that tool. And so without further ado, let's get into the interview between Kem Butler, who is again the Product Strategy Director at Oracle, focusing on JD Edwards, and she's interviewed by Victor Lang, the Vice President of Enterprise Systems at Smartbridge.
Welcome to the Smartbridge podcast. This is Victor Lang, Vice President of Enterprise Systems, and we have a very special guest with us today, Kem Butler. She's Product Strategy Director, Oracle JD Edwards. We invited Kem here today so that we can talk a little bit about some of the trends in the technology industry, get a good understanding of some things that are happening with JD Edwards and a lot of changes that are occurring with digital transformation. So thank you very much for joining us, Kem.
Thanks, Victor. I'm very happy to be here with Smartbridge today, and I'm looking forward to our conversation.
Well, great. So I know we have a lot of JD Edwards customers, and actually we've been working with Oracle to promote a lot of the new JD Edwards 9.2 functionality, and talk really about transforming their business. And what we mean by that is in the digital economy today and how things are changing very fast. There's a lot of companies looking to do what they call digital transformation, and that's really something that we see a lot of trending. And I kind of want to get your understanding or what your definition of what digital transformation means to you.
Well, great. That's a good question. And I guess I want to start by just first of all saying thank you to you and to Smartbridge for your efforts to work with the JD Edwards customer community and to help them start to understand and embrace digital transformation. And so to answer your question specifically, when most of us hear the words digital transformation, we think of online, connected, smart and mobile technologies, and we think about how we use them in our business. But beyond the technology bits and bytes, digital transformation represents either a huge opportunity or a huge challenge for companies. And the difference is characterized by the way in which companies respond to the opportunity. So transformation is going to happen, and those companies that are aware, they understand, and they act will be the ones that start now to define a digital transformation strategy, and they'll take action versus those who do not have that understanding and who do not get started defining a strategy and don't begin taking action immediately. So the technology itself is one part that's necessary for the transformation, in my opinion. But the real transformation is going to require significant corporate cultural shifts, wherein the businesses move beyond a focus of process efficiency, and they embrace the customer experience outcome-based economy. Digital technologies provide the modern platform and big data insight that will enable business transformation, but the technology without the change in that mindset will not deliver complete transformation, the kind that will be the hallmark of the most successful companies going forward. So for me, I would say the bottom line is digital transformation certainly requires advancing technologies, but just as important is that shift in the corporate culture. So organizations that understand and execute on that foundation will have, the opportunity to remain competitive and viable in the future.
That's interesting. I mean, that's really kind of the way we take a look at Smartbridge, at least when we talk to our customers. We always talk about it in the ways of strategy, people, process, and technology. Technology being one of the enablers of those changes, but always bringing in the people in the process. And I think you kind of nailed it when you said organizational change being a key component of that, because any kind of change will need to take that into account. So very interesting and very insightful. And along with that, going along with that, some of the technologies that you mentioned, the online, the mobile, a lot of people kind of classify these as maybe disruptive technologies that are basically introducing change, introducing disruption in businesses. Are there any compelling business use cases, in your opinion, that really highlight the capability of disruptive technology?
Well, rather than picking one use case, what I'd like to do is to invite our listeners to identify the processes that are strategic to them and the health of their business. Once you've identified those processes that are really critical, then think about how that process is operationalized currently, and look at each step in that process with a critical eye and an open mind. So asking yourselves, are you executing that process the way you did 10, 15, maybe even 30 years ago? JD Edwards has been around as an ERP system for decades, and some people still use it today basically the same way they did years and years ago. So when you start to evaluate, think about what technologies exist today that, if applied, could remove friction. They would potentially increase your business insight via better and big data. And ultimately, they have the possibility to improve your ability to focus on your customer experience, because that's where the market is going. It's really focusing on, the customer outcome. And the key is to consider the entire process that you're evaluating, not just for, certain spots along the process, but look at that entire process that is critical from end to end, and look for all the opportunities to digitize and to modernize. Doing just the bits and pieces here and there will provide efficiencies in some ways, but really the transformation can only happen when the entire process, multiple processes throughout the organization, leverage technologies to change the way business is done. And it's possible that you might even change what business you're doing. The transformation that is happening today is opening new possibilities to new lines of business for people that are really open and thinking about it in a very progressive way. So new possibilities exist when we believe behind the constraints and methods and mentalities of the way we've always done it. I know that wasn't a specific use case, but I really just think about asking our community to think very proactively about their processes that are strategic and think about overhauling them in their entirety is going to be critical.
Very, very good point, Kem. I mean, I kind of see that along the lines with customers that we interact with is they do have specific things that they're trying to do, but they always kind of take that into a bigger picture. They want to start with kind of the vision of what they're trying to accomplish, and then start building a roadmap to get there. So I totally agree with you when you kind of think big picture. What's that vision look like, and then work on how you get there. But think somewhat out of the box and talk about new capabilities. So I want to circle back to JD Edwards now, and kind of get a little bit more specific with you because there are a lot of JD Edwards customers out there that are, upgrading. They're going to 9.2. They're going to the new release. They see a lot of great capabilities available with that, with mobility and IoT and all those different kinds of things. So, what are some of the key digital transformation initiatives that maybe you see JD customers adopting today?
Yeah, great question. I should at least mention that Enterprise One UX One reflects the sea change that we see happening in the enterprise software, wherein the end users are demanding simple and easy to use solutions, and that they are looking for data-driven dashboards to guide them through the way they want to work and guide them to the work that's most important. So that user experience is a big focus for our customers today as they start to look at how can I become more digital in my approach to doing work. So insight and dashboards. Then I would say, I guess I should mention that UX1, that user experience, has just recently been launched, and it is causing, quite a stir. We're seeing lots of activity and interest in this new capability, and I think what we're going to see is many customers embracing the tools release 9.2 update 1 in rapid, succession, so that they can start to realize those benefits of that simplified role-based user interface. Other things, for many JD Edwards customers, historically the starting point was with barcode scanning technologies, and now those customers are starting to move down the path, either exploring or actually implementing IoT solutions to do things such as advance the operations on the shop floor or to improve the management of field assets, for example. And then, of course, mobile solutions are part of that trend that we've seen in play with JD Edwards customers for quite a while now. Those are some of the key ones. And I would probably be remiss if I didn't mention cloud in some respects. So while cloud itself is not really a digital technology, we expect to see more and more JD Edwards customers begin to choose either Oracle or other public cloud infrastructure and middleware options as they are enabling strategies that remove friction from the ERP deployment, management, and optimization processes. So not exactly a digital technology, but when you shift that focus and you reap the benefits, then you can start to focus on the other digital technologies and technology support mechanisms that come through that redeployment of resources.
Yeah, I actually all those things that you mentioned, I would echo that. I would completely agree because we see a lot of that too with our customers, and a lot of times, when I show them the UX one, the landing page, and that dashboard, and the simplicity of how they can access their information and do that, that basically that paradigm of alert, analyze, and act. They're like, wow, this is a game changer for us. So much more user friendly than going through like a menu. So I agree. That's definitely one of the things that I really catch people's eye when they see that new tools release. And you're right. I think a lot of customers that are already on the nines are maybe just saying, okay, let me stay on 9.0 or 9.1 and just do a tools upgrade because, they don't want to take on the app upgrade maybe till, the following year. So, Definitely something that we see too.
Makes great sense. And, JD Edwards is pretty famous for giving their customers choice. And so that's just another great example. So we appreciate you showing it to the customers, and we appreciate the fact that you're echoing what we're hearing, that it is exciting and customers are going to start to move.
Yes, and I think that to me is somewhat a competitive advantage when you can get information that you need and be able to act on that information faster than your competitor. That's an advantage for you. And going along those lines, you see those signs of digital technologies kind of changing the competitive landscape in the industry. What do you see as far as, the competitive landscape, people using digital technologies, where, how, which technologies do you see kind of in play, altering that competitive landscape?
I think it's an interesting question, and I might tweak it just a little bit, where if your question was, how do I see it changing the competitive landscape in my industry, for example, because JD Edwards is in the software industry, and even though we serve a lot of customers in manufacturing and oil and gas, construction, all those types of industries, even in our industry, it's changing the way we function. So, for example, the technologies that are coming to the market and are disrupting are changing the way we think about product investments, of how we make decisions about what to work on. So while we always make investment decisions to improve our feature and function enhancements, we are, in a spot where we are continuously now researching and monitoring the technology space, so that when something new comes onto the horizon, we are aware and are currently involved in evaluating those technologies so that we can determine the benefits that our customers who use our ERP solutions might gain from them, and then we invest accordingly. So the JD Edwards industry is being impacted as well, just like the industries of our customers, and good examples of where it's shaped what we invest in include our mobility, our IoT, the UX one. Those are all good examples of how the disruption has impacted what we are building and delivering. And a couple other examples that customers might not be aware of yet is that we are currently researching and prototyping cognitive computing capabilities and what impact that will have on ERP solutions. And I got to say, that's one I'm pretty excited about personally. It's ripe with opportunity for more transformation in the way ERP solutions are used to help businesses advance. So those are some examples of how the disruption is even impacting us and how we're bringing those disruptors to our customers in the form of ERP solutions.
That's actually very exciting. I mean, when you say cognitive computing, that future that you see in terms of, having that artificial intelligence and be able to absorb mass amounts of data rapidly and give you kind of the key answers that you're looking for. That technology is now. I mean, we see that in a lot of different places, and that's definitely something that we're trying to do in terms of our R&D at Smartbridge, is taking advantage of some of those new concepts that are available either with cognitive or natural language recognition, how you can basically speak the way that a normal human speaks and ask the computer questions, and hopefully, you get the result that you want from JD Edwards saying, okay, how much inventory do I currently have in my truck? And as you're driving, you just say that, and it tells you, oh, you have this, this and this in your inventory. And by the way, you're going to need to make a stop because you don't have enough of this product to deliver in your next 3 stops down the road. So that's kind of stuff.
That's a perfect example. And I have to say, I personally received a Google Home listening device for Christmas, and I am loving the convenience and the just the information that it puts at my fingertips or at my voice command, so that cognitive computing coupled with the personal assistance capability are 2 of the more, leading edge technologies that I am really interested in, what we're working on, our prototyping that we're doing currently. So stay tuned. Thanks, Victor, for that question, and I appreciate the work that you guys are doing on it as well.
Yep, we're always trying to stay in the forefront, and I'm also very interested in working with Oracle and seeing what comes out of the R&D labs there, and hopefully we can get some good new technologies that can really make some big impact to the businesses of the customers that we serve. So. Really exciting. I'm going to have to get one of those Google Homes or Amazon Echoes one of these days because it just sounds so much fun to have. So thank you so much, Kem, for joining us today. That was so insightful. I really appreciate you spending time with us.
Thanks, Victor. I enjoyed being with you. Good luck in 2017. Thanks again.
You too. Happy New Year.
Bye-bye.
So that was Kem Butler with Victor Lang, and she brought some great topics to our episode today. She talked about Oracle's push towards digital transformation.
That's a little heavier than our typical interview, but both Victor and Kem are subject matter experts in that.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so we wanted to give a little bit more of that strategy and a little bit more of the kind of higher level discussion than we normally have. One of the things that I did like, and when they brought it back down a little bit, talking about cognitive computing, artificial intelligence, and the Amazon Echo or the Google Home, and how those devices are going to be a large part of the future and the interface between technology and the end user.
So, and she brought up Oracle's push towards digital transformation. And like you said, you brought artificial intelligence to this. And I feel like that's going to be one of the biggest digital transformations that we'll see in a long time. And she also brought up the success and failure during the transformations, how a organization can differentiate, although they're going for a transformation phase. There are key things that stand out for an organization's success and failure.
One of the things that was published recently, I believe one of our directors, Matt, actually has a very interesting blog post on BI and voice. So if you find the whole Amazon Echo or the Google Home or even Westworld,
if you're fans of Westworld, show, definitely check it out.
Interesting. He has some very interesting things to say on it and ties it back into to some of the business aspects. So definitely go ahead and take a look at that.
Again, just to highlight some of the things that they spoke about in their interview: overcoming transformations through awareness, success versus failure for organizations, and then also some key digital transformations that Oracle is going through because of their awareness and their understanding of how the industry is going, which is geared towards users and their experience. So you have the user experience one, you have mobile solutions that they're coming up with to kind of address those things and give use and freedom to users. But then also key investments that they're making with these disruptive technologies and turning them into profiting or beneficial areas of business that they can address and have their reach.
Ultimately take something that could be disruptive and could give you some growing pains and make it to the point where it's easy to use and adapt, and then actually offers a lot of benefit to the organization as a whole.
Yeah, and that comes down to being open-minded and having the awareness, which are huge factors going through digital transformations of this magnitude.
One thing that I'd like to see, and is very exciting for me, is seeing how all of these technologies are going to interface and the value that they're going to bring back. Yeah. I mean, I'm a tech nerd. I'm not going to lie about that. So thinking that I can do something like use voice commands to accomplish things that would take me minutes to type out.
Yeah.
And I can do it in fractions of a second. Not only is that beneficial for me as an employee, I just think it's a really cool technology.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of exciting things going on at Oracle. And again, we want to thank Kem Butler for having the interview with Victor Lang. And we'll see you next time on our episode with Smartbridge.